Okay, so we're gonna be going into the lumbar circle. So with this one, it can be done in various positions. Right now we're gonna be going over seated. Seated is a good way to start for a couple reasons. One, it gives you a little more stability, and especially with things where you're kind of like, like starting to arch backwards a little bit, it can feel a little bit safer in the beginning. Secondly, what is actually useful about the seated position is it will keep us from moving from the hips as opposed to the spine. So the movement is not complicated. However, typically when we do this motion, it's not occurring at the lumbar spine, which is what we're shooting for. We end up using our hips to kind of shift us around, and being seated on them will kind of keep that from happening to a large extent. So the idea here is we're moving our lumbar spine. It doesn't need to be exact, but think of it as it's going to be more or less your low back, so kind of in this area, which means the vertebrae from here to here on the spine are the ones we should be kind of seeing move and or feeling move. There's not extra stuff happening above it. And then we're seated, so below it's not an issue, or below it. Okay, there are 4 basic positions, and then we tie those into a circle. So the positions are left, right, forward, and back. When we're going left and right, these tend to be the easier ones. You can think of it like a side crunch. So I'm trying to move from here. So if you think of it like there was a bar right here and you had to kind of fold yourself over the bar, it's a side crunch. So I'm thinking about from here, bringing this shoulder down towards this hip. So I would be like this, okay? You can also think of it as you're kind of reaching up on this side as well, okay? Just be aware that adding shoulder doesn't necessarily add lumbar. It's okay if that kind of sneaks in, but reaching from this side is reaching from here to get over, not there, okay? I have the other side, so that was to my right. I have the same thing to my left, so crunching over here as I reach up over there. And then with forward and back, which I'll show from the side as well. The forward, we just need to be careful we don't turn it into a hinge, okay? So with the hinge, if we were doing that, would be where I'm moving from the hips, and it's like I would be in this position where my back stays straight. This is not flexion at the lumbar spine. Think of the flexion as if there was a bar here and you had to fold this area over the bar. So from this one, it ends up being more like what would be like a crunch or a little bit of like a hollowed position, if you're familiar with that. So what I'm doing from here is I'm gonna pull that spot maybe 2 inches below the belly button in, and then I'm rounding over this way. So I've flexed through here. I'm not like adding extra up top because I don't need to involve the thoracic. I'm just trying to create flexion through the front. And so this is a slouched over position. However, it's on purpose. We're crunching ourselves there. And then for the extension or backwards, think of it like you're just going into a back bend or starting to. Which again, because we're seated, we don't really have to worry about our hips moving away from us. But from here, we can just let the head go back, and then you're going back as much as your body will let you. There's not an objectively correct amount. We just want to feel that extension, okay? So now, when we go into our circle, it's important that we get to kind of that limit of our own range of motion at each of those 4 positions. So don't rush. Kind of get to your finished stretch position, then transition to the next position itself, okay? So let's say I was gonna start to my right initially. So I would be upright in the beginning. I'm gonna go to my right, so I would crunch my way over there. And then I gotta choose forward or back, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna go forward next. So now from this position, remember I'm trying to create that folding at that lower ab area. I would slouch myself forward, so I'm crunching down actively though. I then got to go to the other side. So I would go over there, crunching on this side, and then I go back, right? Which is my kind of back bend position. And so this steadily smooths out into a circle, and we're moving from this area, and we always do both directions. So I would want to go also the other way. And just going at whatever speed feels comfortable that you can control and still get into those stretches. If you do this correctly, it should feel like you're doing a lot of core work, because you are, but it's happening circumferentially. So it's core work, but for the front, the sides, as well as the back, kind of this area all through here. And that's gonna be our lumbar circle.